And we're live. Hello and welcome to the 123rd episode of Hex Therapy Live. I'm your host, Maddie ALLin. We're going to have a great show for you tonight because I'm going to explain what is this new diagnosis that I'm giving to people. What is sudden Mainnet syndrome? And will you be affected by it? How can you beat this terrible condition that's going to be affecting possibly millions of users here very shortly in the cryptocurrency spaces? I will also answer for you tonight why I'm wearing this silly Christmas sweater and much more. We're going to talk about why Mainnet is going to see version 4. Why Pulse Chain is going to see version 4 instead of going to Mainnet right after testnet version 3. So you know what to do. Hit the like and subscribe button. And welcome to this week on Hex Therapy Live.
It's from Maddie ALLin of HexTherapy.live. I like Maddie. Maddie tries to make the world a healthier place. He's a mental health professional. He's done research.
Big videos on sudden wealth syndrome.
There's nothing that a human being could do better than try and heal his fellow man.
Maddie ALLin's got that covered. He does emotional, feel-good, mind management, emotion stuff, like, as his gig, because he's a therapist. That's what he does for a living. Like, he helps heal people.
All right. So there's been a lot happening in the past week, as usual, in these crypto streets. I've been watching a lot of different live streams. I hope you have been too, because there are so many amazing content creators out there. Naga Bo came back on Dollar Cost Crypto's show. That was definitely one to catch, and so much more. But you know, so I got my notes here. I'm going to talk about all the different points. We're going to go over the thumbnail and figure out what else has been going on. So the number one thing I've been seeing on Twitter right now is a lot of people kind of like bargaining is what you would call it in psychological terms. People are like bargaining with the reasoning for why the price has been going down in Hex on this super short time scale, right? If you zoom out to the quarterly chart, you would see that 3 months ago, Hex was like 2 cents. Okay. So, you know, that's part of what we do on Hex Therapy, is to help you understand like the emotions of checking the price all the time and, you know, feeling like, oh, maybe it was 9 cents, you know, a couple days ago, and now it's only 6.9 cents or something like that. Right. And, you know, the price is a lot of things. And, you know, some people would say, oh, it's unhealthy to check the price. But look, the price tells you more information about the market per inch of screen than any other tool you can have. There's nothing else that will advertise Hex better than the price itself, because the price is published and it's motivating to people, and it's so like high signal, basically. The price is what summarizes, you know, what everybody who's paying attention, who's glued in, what they're feeling. And look, it's Melv Tony himself here who's saying, I don't worry about the price. There you go. But that's what I was observing today on crypto Twitter when I did my psychological analysis of these crypto streets. And I was witnessing a lot of disappointment about the news about V4. And I wanted to make the point that it's actually a good thing when certain news affects the market in a certain way. And, you know, crypto, actually Hex crypto, is maybe a lot more honest of a price signal than we would see compared to a lot of other markets, because a lot of other markets are manipulated highly. Whereas in Hex, we have a huge amount of transparency compared to legacy markets, because 95% of the market activity is on chain. And so you don't have to go to a centralized entity to beg for them to tell you the truth, which they don't have any incentive to, for them to tell you the truth about who's actually buying and selling. But in Hex, we get to see it. Okay. And I would infer, based on my 6 years of crypto experience, I would infer that the people who are selling the price from 9 cents down to 7 cents whenever Richard Hart announced today that there's another phase of testing that's going to have to happen before Pulse Chain launches. Those are the people that we're going to sell anyway because they're short-term traders. They are so short-term thinking that they don't care about their copy of Hex on Pulse Chain. They don't care about their entry into ratio trading in the first couple of days of Pulse Chain launching, where people with Hex may get some sort of a preferential time window to ratio trade between Pulse Chain and Pulse X and Hex. They don't care about any of that. They don't care about like the long-term value of Hex. And as I've said in previous shows, it's okay for us to have those people. Like the traders are welcome, because in order for us long-term guys to do well, we also need the short-term guys to come play their games along the way. And so I hope that my attitude here, can be contagious and people can realize that this is actually, it's hella bullish when the traders get washed out. It's hella bullish when we find out that there is going to be a version 4 of Pulse Chain testnet. The reason why we're having a V4 is directly related to the fact that Richard Hart wants to improve the incentives for people running validators. And part of the reason why we've waited so long for Pulse Chain, other than that, is this whole unit bias problem that he's fixing. Richard already had the genius idea to copy the entire system state of Ethereum. He already had the genius idea to wait, well, maybe not wait, but to be able to update to Ethereum 2.0 instead of just forking the old version of Ethereum, right? That's something that happened in the past 9 months, well, since September. And so he had all these brilliant insights. And what I'm predicting that you'll see is that these genius design decisions that Richard has chosen, they have the ability to compound on each other. Because it's an integrated network that Pulse Chain is creating. It's integrated with the DEX. And so you got PulseX there. PulseX has a deflationary nature to it. It has a buy and burn mechanism. Like, that's a really, really powerful thing. And, in order to make PulseX work, you need Pulse Chain tokens, or coins, we should say. And, in order to get the most out of Pulse, you want people to be able to trade using something on chain that has a common set of holders. That's another really important thing in this whole ecosystem, is the idea that probably the people who participated the most in the sacrifices were people who did really well from Hex. Regular people like me were up 100x or 1000x on our money that we'd put into Hex. And so we were very confident in our ability to sacrifice with no expectations, because we had gotten that rich that suddenly, right? I mean, that's how I got to be known for my, one of my topics that I stream about is sudden wealth syndrome. The reason I got known for that is because I was experiencing it. I was documenting it along the way. I was adding any psychological insights that I could add. So it's very unique that this set of users who got rich from Hex are the ones who may own the majority of the user-controlled Pulse Chain coins and Pulse X tokens. Right? And the reason why that's unique and that might be beneficial is because once people reach a financial escape velocity, then the theory goes that they may not need to sell as much. The amount that they need to sell may decrease the higher and faster their net worth increases. And so, how amazing of a thing would it be if the people who sacrificed tens of thousands of dollars for Pulse Chain didn't need to sell tens of millions of dollars worth of it because they were more focused on the long-term potential. And if the people who sacrificed hundreds or a single thousands of dollars, if those people were the ones who got to cash out hundreds of thousands of dollars in this next bull run in the next 2-3 years. Well, the way that something like that would be possible, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. The way that would be possible would be because there's this group of people who sells too early. You can see it in any market. It's part of the psychology of the cycle of market emotions. It's part of the Wall Street cheat sheet. The way that Hex can do another 10,000x from here is because everybody sells when it gets to 10 cents. You've heard me say that before, right? And within each of us, there is hopefully a short-term perspective and a long-term perspective, or that's something that could grow, or that's something that you would hope you had the luxury, right, of holding both of those perspectives. And I realize that a lot of people haven't been raised in the type of financial environment, or in the type of like interpersonal, family structure where saving was seen as a good thing. And that's partly because of the deleterious effects of inflation. Inflation is something that makes people psychologically ill and societies psychologically ill. And so it's our job I think in crypto, as people who support hard assets and decentralized economies, to really represent these values and to try to spread this viewpoint that you can have more if you wait, at least for people to have a balance of those attitudes of short-term and long-term attitudes. And so that's part of the reason why I invented Time Pays Me, was because I had the need myself to have a tool to delay gratification when Pulse Chain and Pulse X launch. And that's because in order to meet my short-term financial needs, I'm going to need to sell some percentage of my Pulse Chain and Pulse X tokens, and my Hex that comes out on a yearly basis. I'm going to have to sell some percentage of that in order to pay the bills. And I've already done a super good job of delaying gratification, and I plan to continue that. That's what's been working for me. So I'm going to keep doing that. And so I needed a way to be able to time lock my Pulse Chain and Pulse X coins and tokens, and to be able to not have to live with the burden constantly of stopping myself from selling once we get 100x. Once we get 1,000x. And these X's are more achievable the more people who participate in taking a portion of their portfolio and committing on the blockchain to a long-term perspective. That's something that we've seen in Hex, that 75% of user-controlled coins are time-locked. Why is that? Well, it's because everybody sold when the price went up 10x, and then down 10x, and then up 20x, down 20x, right? It's a roller coaster that no matter who is riding it, these are the majority of people in Hex, I believe, were people who earned their financial freedom for the first time. And that brings me back to the unique situation that we're going to see with Pulse Chain and PulseX is how incredible would it be if the founder or whoever controls the majority of the tokens, let's just call it the top holder, in this case. It might be Richard Hart, it might be a duck named Greg, who knows, right? But let's just say that the top holder, what if the top holder didn't sell any tokens? What if the top holder didn't sell any coins? What if they were already a billionaire in Bitcoin? They were a billionaire in Ethereum. They're a billionaire in stable coins, right? A basket of DAI and USDT, and I don't know, maybe they bought or sold some of their USDC whenever the price depegged and made a quick 10 mil that way. But and maybe they're a multi-billionaire in Hex, right? And then if they're a billionaire in Pulse Chain and PulseX, maybe that person wouldn't have to sell. And then you go down the list of like all the people who are the top holders and you ask the question, like, what if that person doesn't have to sell? Well, what that means is more people get financial freedom if this thing takes off, if this thing grows in its network effect. You hear, I always forget if it's your friend Sami or my friend Sami, right? Because we're all friends. And speaking of which, he not only does a great job of characterizing the behaviors of people in the Hex community and pointing out why the network effect really matters here. But he also, by the way, does a super great job of having his branding on point. And you can see his branding goes from the name of his channel, Your Friend, right? And then he talks about that in every video. There's this theme and thread of we're doing this for friendship, not to enrich the broadcaster or influencer in this case, right? Not to pay somebody ahead of time if they have trading advice to make you rich. Why would you have to pay them at the beginning? Why wouldn't you pay them after they showed you how to get a 50x, right? That's another just brilliant point that he made today on Twitter. So, but the point is that the more of a network effect that you have, the greater the price performance can be, the greater tokenomics that you have, where you have a deflationary supply, where you're rewarding validators. Guess what, people? Rewarding validators is like rewarding people who are locking up their coins. And just because validators, just because eventually they'll be able to unlock whenever they want, doesn't change the fact that if it's a very lucrative thing, if the origin address or the top holders or whatever, if they don't participate in validating with all of their coins, that would cause the APY to be higher for the people who are validating, for the people who want to become financially free. So it's incredibly hopeful. It's like people who are disappointed about V4 are maybe mistakenly looking at the price chart to tell them what this means. And in reality, what it means is that the short-term people are being washed out because they couldn't wait a week for the next phase of testing, right? Or for whatever reason people are selling. I think it's great to get those people out now because we don't want the price to go higher with those people not being washed out, in a sense. But we're fine with them playing their games. They can buy and sell and whatever. Yeah, so that's all that's all pretty exciting to me that we got news about V4, because that's something we almost could have been expecting. And Richard, he apologized for saying that he literally thought that V3 was going to be the last test. But then he realized the value of increasing the incentives for people who are locking up their coins. And it almost creates another situation like in Hex. Where else have we seen massive price performance happening because people were locking up their coins? In Hex. That's where we see it, right? And so if being a validator turns out to be something pretty easy, that's a great thing. But even if you're somebody who doesn't know how to run a validator, or you don't want that responsibility, guess what? By paying a relatively high inflation rate, right? Compared to user controlled coins versus the total amount of coins, by paying that higher incentive, it actually causes more people to time lock. And even if you're not one of the ones time locking and getting that reward, you're benefiting from more price action. You're benefiting from the price running up higher because the available supply is lower. The available supply for people to dump on the market is lower when the price runs up. Now, in the case of a validator, maybe it's not going to be as strong of an effect because the time lock, I think you can exit it at any time after the Chappelle upgrade, which used to be called the Shanghai upgrade, but that's been changed in the past week or whenever it was changed. Ethereum renamed their upgrade that they're going to be doing in about a week from today. They're going to be doing an upgrade, which will allow people to unlock their tokens that they've had locked up in the validator phase of Ethereum. So, yeah. This is all incredible tokenomics, and that's part of what makes mad gains happen on a blockchain. Let's see. Yeah. So the issue that some people are going to need to prepare for is that even your Lambo is going to need therapy, because you're going to have so much sudden wealth syndrome. It's going to transfer into the objects around you. That's my prediction, is that that Pulse Chain and Pulse X are going to perform better than most people are imagining. Definitely better than most people are imagining. Another thing that I wanted to point out, well, and so they're going to perform better than you can imagine, but the question is, are you going to be in on those gains? And if you have never participated, if you joined in the past year, you haven't participated in maybe a major crypto bull run. And, it's not that the price goes up only. It'll go up 5x, it'll go up 10x, and then it'll dump, because people can't handle the mad gains, because people make decision because people are deferring to their future self to make the decision, and they can change their decision to hold at any time. And that's where Hex and Time Pays Me, that's where those are flipping the narrative. They're flipping more than the narrative. They're flipping the behavioral control that you have. You hear people talk about having diamond hands, but in reality, if you have to have strong hands constantly, your hands are going to get tired. They're going to get weak, and you're going to have to hold on so much tighter. Imagine holding on 10 times tighter than you are now. Okay. Imagine holding on 500 times tighter than you are now. It's hard for humans to imagine that, because we have meat brains, right? And we have trouble imagining compound functions because our brains think in a more linear way. And so I would argue that you can't hold on 500 times harder. And that's the proof that we see in every market. The reason why more people have not become financially free from crypto is not because crypto can't perform. It's and look, when people time lock, it allows the price to go higher than it could have otherwise, right? So being able to time lock for up to 55 years and time pays me, being able to time lock with incentive for up to 15.2 years in Hex, it's going to give people the tools that they need in order to get to the point where they have sudden wealth syndrome, because you're not going to get 500 times wealthier than you are now in the next 4 years if you don't have a smart plan in place that does not require you to hold on with 500 times your strength, right? Your psychology changes when the number goes up. I can speak from personal experience in this case. When you have $1,000 turn into $1 million, you don't know how you're going to feel every minute of every day until you get there. And then you're going to thank God that you had it time locked, the majority of it, because it wouldn't have gotten to $1 million if you didn't time lock, because you would think to yourself, oh, I'll just hold until I'm a millionaire. You know, I held from $1,000 to $10,000. So, you know, that took all my strength, but it'll be fine. I'll just be as strong, you know, I'll have unlimited strength. No, that's not how it works. It's the same thing actually with substance abuse recovery. I worked for 7 years with people who had alcohol and other drug addictions. And it's not, basically there was this lesson that we taught. One of my favorite lessons was be smart, not strong. And the idea was that you need to avoid triggers, not because most of the time you won't be able to overcome your trigger with strength, but that that triggers interact and compound on each other. And you know, the same day that you get bad news, you get a phone call, somebody died, or something in your life fell apart. If you've been exposing yourself to an amount of triggers that normally you could handle, well, that day maybe you can't handle it, and then it leads down a dark and familiar path. And so the idea that I taught people was to save your strength for unexpected times. And if there's something, if you can, you know, buy your tobacco, cigarettes at not a liquor store, at a place that doesn't sell alcohol, right? And, you know, quitting smoking is something that I specialized in for 7 years before. I was a drug counselor, but the idea there is that basically that's just a common example of how you can avoid a certain trigger by not going to that place, by taking the long road instead of the shortcut that normally you'd have enough strength to handle it, but all of a sudden you can't, because there's an unexpected compounding trigger. Well, in much that same way that you want to have a smart approach to your recovery and to avoid triggers, it's the same thing when it comes to cryptocurrency and not selling too early. When you use something like Hex and you can time lock where you've got Hex coming out yearly or quarterly, that's a really powerful thing. When you use Time Pays Me and you have something coming out, you know, weekly, and it's only a fraction of what you normally have, well, that's going to be rewarding to you once you do 1,000x, but you're not going to be able to screw it up like your meat brain would when $1,000 turns into $100,000, and then it goes back down to $8,000, and then it goes up to $200,000. And now everybody in your life that you told, hey, I made 6 figures in crypto, you know, they're looking at you like you're on suicide watch. And, you know, maybe you are, because you've put so much pressure on yourself, because you've been holding on so tight that you don't have the time and energy that you need for other things in your life, right? So just because you can hold on 500 times harder than you need to, doesn't mean that you should do that. And so that's what I call being smart about holding on to your crypto instead of being strong holding on to your crypto. And look, there's a case to be made that you want to have a balance of those things. That's something I've found in my strategy is it's not a good thing to have a whole year's worth of hex that's gone up 500x to come out all on my birthday, and then that's all I have for the year. And I sell it all at that point, and then I don't hold any liquid. It's better for me if I hold some liquid throughout the year and, sell periodically, these super small amounts that I need to live off of, or just my airdrops, sell those. And, to basically have that balance of like using my strength so that I don't become weaker, basically. I like to hold the amount of coins liquid that's right around how much money I would make in a year. And that seems about right to me. And that's not going to be right for everybody else. And so, it's going to vary, but I'm trying to give you these ideas and speak from experience because I do like to practice what I preach. And I do like to share experiential insights, not just theory. Although the theory and experience, when you combine them, they do really well together, it seems. So this idea that maybe it sounds good that you can hold through a 500x. However, the data on chain of everybody who ever played around with cryptocurrency says that 99% or more of people they're not strong enough to experience that, and they're going to sell and then watch the price go up. And most people are only going to get usually to a point where it becomes like a year or two's worth of salary. They're not going to get to the point where it's like, now I've got 10 years worth to live off of. And if you could get to the point where you got to 10 years, why wouldn't you? What, are you suddenly not believing in crypto anymore? Like, if it gets you that far, why wouldn't you want to hold on to some crypto so that maybe you could retire for life? Or maybe you could retire for long enough that you just have this extra cushion. And that cushion is something that it's a double-edged sword. I'd imagine if you get too rich too quick and you don't time lock any of it, then you can get unrich really quick. And, you could become a worse version of yourself if you don't have to work and then you stop putting in work, right? Our goal with Hex Therapy is for you to have such a smooth transition from the rat race to being retired to being highly productive, that you're doing something that you love and you're winning with other people. You're building community. You feel like you belong. You don't turn into an asshole. A lot of rich people are assholes. And that's partly how they got there, or that's partly who they were in the beginning, or it's partly that they don't have the things anchoring them that they used to. And so navigating this new world to you, it's something that you can do by learning from others, by doing the work before you get the riches. When it comes to the lottery, it's so unpredictable whether you're going to win that you can't really do any prep for sudden wealth from the lottery. Sudden wealth from an inheritance usually means somebody died who's close to you. That's not a great way to experience it. But getting sudden wealth syndrome from crypto, now that's something that has a lot of potential to be a positive in your life. And, the goal is that you can hold on to some crypto. You can have some longevity. You can transition to taking care of yourself first better. and then to be able to take care of others or to produce something for the world, to be creating content, to be helping out relatives with stuff or friends, family, volunteering, giving back in some little way to the economy actually allows crypto to pay for itself from a deep economic theory. Um, if everybody in the world got rich and retired, there would be nobody left to work, and then it wouldn't matter how much money you had because there would be lots of money but nothing to buy because nobody would be doing any goods or services, right? So and that's something that I really want to stress because it's something I've thought about for multiple years now, is this idea that there's no like moral propensity, there's no honor in like getting rich and then just consuming only, because that's not sustainable. However, if you get so rich and healthy at the same time that it doesn't feel like work to be doing whatever you're doing, maybe I'm out here educating 6,000 people a day. That's like a small university. I'm like running a small university, like a class at a university that, like there aren't any classes where like 6,000 people are taking them at a traditional university. Like there's maybe 60 people in a class, right? So it's like, what, I'm teaching 100 classes or something. That seems like a very high value economic output. And it doesn't feel like work to me because I love learning and listening to so many other content creators that I can give you a banging show every week. So, yeah, other people, it's going to be, they're going to start a fisherman business and they're going to go save the dolphins. Some people are going to teach kids how to read. Some people are, going to invent new things, right? Or they're going to try a bunch of different things before they figure out what they love. Some people are going to go do mission work, right? They're going to help people in needy countries. But I really believe that the end game is not to just retire and consume. Because if that was the case, then that would be like a really privileged thing that would be somewhat exploitative towards other people. I really think our one of the 7 habits of highly effective people is like begin with the end in mind. And so if you're beginning your journey to financial freedom, your journey to retire early, and you're beginning that with the expectation that you won't stop working or stop creating value, that's, it's going to make a big difference in society if crypto is going to scale. And look, Pulse Chain is going to have the ability to scale better than any other cryptocurrency I'm aware of, because there's a virality already. We're like we're the most pre-viral you can get, right? And I've seen that grow even in the past 2 or 3 weeks. There's a huge coil being, being wound up, and it's I think it's going to catch a lot of people by surprise. That's why I wanted to make this thumbnail. That's why I wanted you to see all these different cryptocurrencies sitting on the therapy couch along with the Lambo, because that's really, you have to put in the work ahead of time if you want to have the healthiest transition. You can ask any of the 1,000 people who became financially free from Hex in its first 656 days, right? Shout out to Johnny Chaos. You have a brother, though, who recently surfaced on Twitter, don't you? But Richard, no, he doesn't have a brother. And shout out to Art, who did start a cat shelter and got featured in the news, and it's called Hexy's Cat Shelter. I did an episode from there. I appreciate Art's support and everybody else who's a subscriber to the channel, who's a supporter, but also Art in particular has been very supportive of the conferences and other things I've done. So shout out to you. Johnny says, I don't know what to do when I grow up anymore. Well, this is something we're all going to figure out. We're going to figure it out together. And, it's teamwork makes the dream work now, doesn't it? I'm going to keep like spitting all this alpha, and I'm not sure the windy path that it's going to take. But because I just realized, I haven't been looking at the numbers. I just realized that there are like 280 people watching. So hit the like button if you just got here. Thanks for being here. Hit the subscribe button. My subscriber count was like stuck for 6 months, and now it's starting to inch up a little bit again. So what does that mean? That means that we might be going back into a bull market. It's good news, right? But even more importantly, I want the people who are already subscribed, I want you to get value out of this. I want you to get your unofficial therapy right here. Not therapy advice, not financial advice. Regulators, calm down. But it's important. I think it's important. So part of what I promised is that I would explain why I'm wearing this this silly, ugly Christmas sweater. And no, it's not that I'm picking up the mantle of Richard Hart and the outrage marketing. I don't know, maybe I am. But the particular reason why I chose to wear this tonight is because of Sun Well syndrome. Everybody is going to need their own form of therapy when it comes to what do you do when you get rich to remind yourself who you really are? What do you do as a throwback behaviorally to remind yourself that you haven't changed? Well, for me, as silly as this may seem, for me, something that really helps me get back to my roots of like, how did I get here, is that I would save money on clothes. And one thing I would do is I would always wait. I'd be like a hawk, ready to get my dress pants 90% off, 70% off, somewhere in that range. Is like, that's what it would take. And sure, now I've gotten so many airdrops, I'm at the point where I'm financially free, so I can afford to pay full price, even with inflation being out of control. The government's lying about how much inflation is. Real inflation, the SEC budget in between 2020 and 2024 is increasing 11% per year. And they're not returning more funds to investors along the way. So, go do the math yourself. My health insurance went up 20% in 1 year as normal. So that's the real rate of inflation. It's not 5%. It's not 7%. You can cook the books all you want, but that's not going to change how people are actually reacting to things. The reason I'm wearing this sweater is because I just bought this sweater. I'm planning on wearing it next Christmas, but I bought it because it was 70 or 80% off. And when I went to the checkout, basically it wasn't ringing up right. And so I don't know if somebody just like put it on the wrong rack or what, but I pretty much told the guy, I was like, hey, I'm not going to buy it unless it's 70% off. And he was like, all right, well, even though it's not in the system, we're going to give you this discount. Why is that important? First of all, it makes me feel like I'm still the same person, right? And so that's the important part. That's the reason I'm bringing it up as a part of Sun Well syndrome therapy, because it might be that you're Johnny Chaos and like you're going to trade shows because that is what makes you in touch with who you are at a deep level. It might be that you're like Maddie and you need to go buy your pants at 70 to 90% off to feel like yourself. But this whole retention of your identity and being able to trace back how you got to where you're at, I would not have gotten financially free in crypto. I would still be working at my job at a mental health clinic that I loved, where I was doing mental health therapy that doesn't scale like the internet does, where I was hadn't gotten a raise in 7 years, even though I had the best performance in the clinic. I was seeing twice as many clients as average because I loved what I was doing. However, it was a scam because the pay was a scam because the price of everything in the world was going up, but I wasn't getting an nobody in mental health was getting an increase in pay. And I chose to work with people who were on Medicaid, basically people who earn less than like $13,000 a year. So that's a really important service that was being screwed. Basically, there are less people working in mental health today because it didn't keep up with inflation. And part of what helps inflation, part of what helps tame inflation is people getting good deals on things. You shouldn't overpay for things. If you overpay for ugly Christmas sweaters, then the price of everything goes up too fast because money is circulating through the economy faster and heavier, and then there's less competition for the goods that are being produced. And so the goods that are being produced don't have to be produced as much, and that can create supply shortages. So there are a lot of modern economics that is backwards, but this is at least, I think, a really good point. This idea that like, you shouldn't overpay for things. And you'll find when you become suddenly wealthy from crypto that you don't feel the same when you spend the same amount of money. You don't feel the same crushing anxiety when you spend a certain amount of money that would normally give you that sense, right? And so it's important, I guess, that as consumers, we continue to have a high bar for ourselves, and that we continue to respect the money that we have, because if we spend it frivolously, then that creates even bigger bubbles in the economy. People end up paying for things that otherwise they could get for less of a price, basically. And then that makes it so that people, you could literally see it. You could literally see it in like the service that you get at hospitals, anywhere, basically anywhere, fast food, restaurants. Like, people are suffering from inflation, and so they're not going to work as hard. They're not going to give you as good a service. And in order to get good service, you're either going to be paying more, or you're going to have to be nicer to people in order to get them to be nice back to you. And okay, that's another super important point about sudden wealth syndrome. You should expect to watch yourself and not act like an asshole towards people. Because when you have less dependency on like your day job, you might just be like, screw it. And that's not like a good attitude to have, right? If you don't get good service from somebody, you might be more inclined, because you're less dependent on society, because you're more independent financially, you might be tempted to treat people worse, basically. And you have to watch yourself. You have to be aware. Before you can manage something, you need to be aware of it. So that's another hot take I can give you, is that like, it's easier to be an asshole when you're rich, but it's just as easy to not be an asshole if you keep an eye on it. And if you remember that just because somebody treats you badly doesn't mean you need to treat them badly, because they're probably having a worse day than you are, or they could be. And look, people, moods are contagious, right? If you have somebody in your life who's like perpetually positive, like I kind of have this toxic positivity as it's described, that can be a really good thing. It doesn't mean that you don't need to get real sometimes and experience the negative side of your emotions, to be comfortable with that and to give yourself permission to feel things. But if everybody's in a bad mood, then it's going to be harder for people to get into a better mood, because moods are contagious. So also, like, crime is contagious. That's something that's interesting that we'll have to get into someday. It's because, like, you're influenced by the people you hang out with. It's because you are a sum of your environment more so than you are some of, like, some internal constant. Like, people have a personality that's repetitive in their behaviors to the extent that their environment is stable. If you put people in an unstable environment, then and that's a constant for them, then you will get unstable behavior as a constant, right? So if you take somebody from a more chaotic or abusive environment, you put them in a safer, more predictable environment, then it changes their behaviors. And it proves that they were not a violent and, like, a bad person. People are not really that good or bad in general, like most people. There's a 1% like tail at the end of psychopaths, and they just, like, their nervous systems react differently than everybody else's. Like, they don't have the same brain waves when they tell a lie, for example. So some people's brains are wired differently to have psychopathic tendencies and to not feel pain the same as other people. And some people experience more pain than is average. But at the end of the day, it's people's environment that shapes how they feel. And then as humans, we, like, internalize our behavior, our environment, basically. So, like, I think I'm a good person, but it's really I'm in a good environment. And there was a famous psychological study called the Zimbardo prison experiment. There were, like, 2 studies that proved this. There was the Stanford prison experiment, and then there was also, like, some stuff that happened in, like, Abu Ghraib or whatever. There have been all these times where, like, the military sent people into this horrible situation, and then they ended up, like, abusing each other to, like, some horrific scale because of basically, like, the power imbalances and, like, other psychological factors that wore on people. And then it actually made psychologists realize, oh, hey, it's the environment. It's not you. Like, so maybe as a society, we can make better environments, and that would make better people, and then life wouldn't suck. Right. And I want to compare this directly to money, because people who time like their money are not doing heinous crimes and are not criminals. It's your financial environment and how inflation treats you that determines whether you're going to be incentivized to be, like, a person who's in a bad environment or a person who's in a good environment. If the government is stealing from you your purchasing power, right? I was following somebody's advice, and I was, like, talking to my mom the other day and telling her that I love her, right? And she was telling me about how coffee used to be 25 cents. Now it's $4. That's a 16x in her lifetime. And she can remember when her parents or grandparents were freaking out that coffee was 25 cents, right? So that's the extent to which the government and this monetary magic is stealing from people. And that funds war, and it funds frivolous spending that makes goods and services weaker. When money is easy, people don't build great inventions as much. You can go to the Bitcoin Standard, a great book by Safdien, and he goes through these, like, points in history, these inventions that were 0 to 1. It wasn't just improving on, like, the refrigerator. Like, all these things got invented during hard money times. And hard money means, like, they're not just printing more of it. It means, like, you're on the gold standard, or the Bitcoin standard, or the Hex standard is going to be even better than all those. But basically, like refrigeration, steel, antibiotics, like all this shit that allowed humanity to scale and like have a much better standard of living. A lot of these inventions were invented back when society was fueled by innovation and people were in, and it's not because there were geniuses back then only. It's because there were geniuses who were in a healthy monetary environment. So there you go. It's really important to remember that it's not that you're bad with money. And like, I always talk about this. I'm going to keep talking about it. I don't care how many times I have to tell you. These economists got a Nobel Prize for saying that people are bad at saving money. And so, yay, we have a solution. It's called a 401k. It was like, it was Kahneman and Thaler. And they're like both high on their own supply of like bad ideas. And, it's like, I've been talking about them since before I became a streamer. If that tells you anything, you can go read my article on why Hex could be good for people's mental health, which is, once nobody read that, I decided to become a streamer on YouTube. And, but you can find the link in the description below, or like go to 3gcrypto.com is the shortcut to get to my Medium article. But this idea that they got the Nobel Prize for just saying something that governments wanted to hear. And it's not true that people are bad at saving. It's that people are bad at saving because your savings mechanism is broken. Because even though the dollar is better than everything else in the fiat world, that doesn't make it okay. That doesn't make it good for humanity. That doesn't mean that society isn't falling apart behaviorally, because you're making people so short-term minded that they've got it all backwards. That all and people are internalizing this, right? So people believe that they are bad at saving money, but in reality, the savings mechanism is broken, because you can't buy more in the future, because the price of everything goes up 11 to 20% per year. So why wouldn't you buy as much as you can today and hoard things, and then you have to save by like buying more houses if you're in any economy like Chinese, Japan, USA, like, and then there aren't enough houses for people to afford. And so then everybody has to pay a higher price for houses, or to just not own their own house, or to pay higher rent. There's homelessness in California. Even with people making $100,000 a year, they would rather live in a tent than pay their $100,000 to live and not have anything left over. So this idea that people are bad at saving is not true. It's that inflation is making a bad monetary environment where people can't get ahead by saving. What does Hex do that's different? It pays inflation to the people who are holding, who are saving. It pays inflation only to the long-term players. And there's enough incentive with the price going up, with the network effect growing, with more people realizing that this is a viable savings mechanism in the long term, that volatility is a feature and not a bug, that the time locking, it can create a better, more mentally healthy environment for you. And then you still have to do some of the work. You still have to learn how to be the best version of yourself, to take care of yourself in ways that you didn't know you'd ever have to do. Because getting financially free, it's not all positives. It creates a different challenge in your life, because then you have to kind of face the fact that you are going to be here in the long term, and that you have to spend your time doing something significant, because there's nothing left. Once you achieve your financial goals, for even a period of time. I have a 1-year runway. So the next struggle for me, and struggle is good. I talk to other people who have retired. You need to have a struggle in your life that's meaningful to you, that's rewarding on a non-monetary level, right? And so that's going to take some work. It's going to take some getting used to, because the other thing that I've realized is you're going to need different behaviors. You're going to need to have different behaviors, for example, in a bull market and a bear market. In a bull market, you have to do the opposite thing behaviorally that you do in a bear market. If you've been in as many cycles as you want to be in, and then you want to start scaling out. For me, I say I want to scale out of Hex. I want to sell Hex over all of my life. Sure, I could change my mind at any time, but how much could I change it? Well, I could change it. My average lock length is probably like 10 years, 9 or 10 years. I'm like 3 years in. So really the soonest I can change that behavior fully of selling all my Hex would be in 15 years. That's great. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to buy my T-shares and to pay my future self on a ladder, on a rotating, continuous 15-year ladder. And I've already done that now for 3 years, to the point where I've guaranteed I'm in Hex for 18 years minimum total. Right? And so, yeah, I think it's really important to understand, like, your behaviors are going to have to change with the market if you want to achieve these dual goals of, like, being, and it's kind of like there's this like behavior science called dialectical behavior therapy, and it's like it traces back really thousands of years if you look at it into the yin and the yang symbol is like a symbol of like two opposites coexisting. The Greek god Janus supposedly had like two heads, and so they could look into the future and the past at the same time, like balance all that. And so this idea, whether it's dialectical behavior therapy and you're using that to get through your trauma, and you're learning how to like not blame yourself and still take responsibility for your life now, however, not blaming yourself for the pain that you've experienced in the past. It's whatever the two opposite ideas are that you want to put together could be considered a dialectic. So if we look at like dialectical crypto therapy or dialectical crypto exploration, what we would be saying is, how can I keep the mindset that I want to only spend 1 to 2% of my Hex per year as my goal, so that I can spread out my Hex over the next 50 to 100 years, because I believe that's how long I will live. And that plan gets updated once a year on my birthday when my stake comes out. So if you're already 50 years old, if you're already 70 years old, then maybe your plan is, to spread out your Hex over 10 years or over 20 years. And remember, we still want the short-term people to come play the game. So if you can't hold on to all of your Hex and you dump all of it every week, that's a thing too. But the point here is, what I'm interested in is how can I strike a balance between having these two opposite beliefs, that I want to be able to sell some of my Hex each year, but I also want to continue growing my ladder and continue perpetuating that for a perpetual staking ladder. So that's where it goes. What else do I have here on the list? Yeah, I was using the example of like, what happens if your $1,000 turns into $100,000, then goes down to 8,000, then how are you going to ride it all the way up to $1 million? whenever you've got bills to pay. Well, and you're not time locked, which is the whole point of time locking. With Time Pays Me, yes, you can put it on a drip. That's the default way that it goes. See, but I also have written down here what would happen if that happened with $100, right? And you can imagine if you were able to hold at least half your bag based on an amount of time that's independent from the price, based on an amount of time that maybe is based on the amount of time you're expecting to live, or the amount of time that you're expecting before something else comes your way. Because you could have $100 turn into $10,000, or you could have $1,000 turn into $10,000. But if you sell it all at that point, then you don't really get to see what your $100 could have done in crypto. And it'll boggle your brain if you time lock at how well you did compared to, you get into this, all right, well, I could sell half. And you're not time locked. And then you're like, okay, well, the next time it doubles, then I could sell half. Then the next time it doubles, I could sell half. But it's like your $100 could have done so much more if you took half of it and you time locked it on basically Time Pays Me does like a continuous staking ladder where you can withdraw the amount of time that you've served. So if you time lock for a year and you serve a week, then you can get out 2% of what you've time locked, because you've served 2% of a year. That's how long a week is. If you time locked for 10 years and you served a week, then you'd be able to take out about 0.2% of what you've time locked every week, because a week is 0.2% of 10 years. So it's a really neat design, I think. And that was another thing that I wanted to touch on. We had, in the grand scheme of things, we had pretty much like a minor delay in moving forward with the audit, because this brilliant dev that I'm working with figured out a way to do the time locking for a much cheaper gas fee than we previously thought was possible. So I'm not going to spill all the beans just yet, because competitors and want to build the anticipation. But it's safe to say I have a bag full of tricks, or a bag full of good news that I haven't shared yet about Time Pays Me, and I think that will be appropriate, to like have so many good things to tell you in the future. I'm excited about it, and I think you should be too. Because look, even if you're the guy who wants to be strong and hold and not use Time Pays Me for Pulse Chain and Pulse X, etc., if it gets really popular, you're going to be one of the people who's benefiting, because there's a lot less people who are having access to their coins to be able to sell when you do. So it's pretty cool. I would be a fan even if I wasn't into time locking. That's for sure. Everybody else wants to time lock their coins? Great, go for it. Yeah, pump my bags, right? So, and I appreciate all the support. Look, people are really valuing the content here a lot. Between YouTube and Twitter now, and I don't have good data on the Twitter views, but HexTherapy.live, Game Theory Gang on Tuesday nights, 4,000, 5,000 views every week now. We had gotten down to like 1,000 views in the bottom of the bear. Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool how the price follows the views? Yeah. And the views follow the price, whatever. You can have your Black Wars debate about the viewership, but on YouTube, those views are not any kind of views. They're not TikTok views that are 10 seconds long. They're not Instagram Reels views. These are people who are on average watching for a half an hour. And that averages in all the people who watch for 15 seconds is the threshold on YouTube where the view counts towards your stats. So that's incredible. That means that there is a huge amount of, for every person who's watching for 15 seconds, there's somebody watching for an hour. Really, really incredible. Last month on my channel, just doing on average 2 shows a week, there were 1.5 million minutes viewed of people actually sitting there listening and watching. Super powerful. So hit the like and subscribe button if you like any of those numbers. So is it that you need to be patient to become a millionaire in crypto? I would argue no, it doesn't work that way, because once you get the first mad gains, you won't be able to control yourself and you'll sell too early. You need to be time locked with some percentage. And the guys who time lock everything, some of them are happy, some of them are not. But the people who have access to a little bit at a time, it can help you with your Sun Well syndrome. And look, let's go back to the thumbnail for a second. And I remember the reason why I made this thumbnail was not only that people have been asking about the Sun Well syndrome series that I've been doing and wanted another video, but I was listening to this great interview that was between Westcott Crypto and ATX Crypto on ATX's channel. And I guess that's a weekly thing that they're doing. But basically they're making some really good points, and it triggered me to think about this idea of doing an episode on Sun Well syndrome, because Westcott Crypto had said that he isn't ready for Mainnet, and most people are freaking out that it's not here yet, and they're anticipating it. And he said, well, he's put in practice and he's been paying attention, but he still doesn't think he's ready. And I think that that's a really sophisticated take, because I very strongly believe that everybody will experience disbelief and shock when we actually get Mainnet. And so that's part of what I wanted to communicate in this episode is put in the work today to really wrap your mind around what Pulse Chain can do. And part of that is going to be getting a freaking ledger, getting a Trezor. I have a link in the description below. And I probably need to do a calculation of at what sacrifice amount would I be thinking you need to get a hardware wallet now, because let's think about it out loud here for a second. So the first time I bought crypto, I bought $20 worth, and it today is worth $1,900. So it would not have made sense for me to pay $60 for a hardware wallet when I was only putting $20 in, because I could have gotten 3 times as much crypto, and my odds of being hacked would be very low. And very shortly, you'll be able to use Smart Vault, which is part of Time Pays Me, and you'll be able to undo a hack for a $2 transaction to set up the vault, and then some other affordable amount if you actually do get hacked and you need to transfer ownership to your second seed phrase. But that doesn't make sense to buy a $60 hardware wallet for $20 worth of crypto. Does it make sense if you buy $200 worth of crypto? Well, probably not, because you could get way more. It depends. When that $200 becomes worth $200,000, if you've time locked it, well, yeah, maybe for you to sleep at night, you're going to need to have a hardware wallet involved. And if you time locked that, remember whatever security you have going into the time lock is pretty much what you're going to have. So if you use MetaMask and you click on a bunch of like degen things, then you could get hacked. And so if you generated those words using MetaMask, it's different than if you generate them on the Trezor and go from there. So yeah, I'll probably at some point like do a really deep analysis on like what I think the trade-off would be. But look, here is the Trezor wallet. Go ahead and get one now in the description below. And you'll make me super rich because it's like an $8 commission on that. And you don't have to pay any more by going to the main website and going to that link. So, you know, have you onboarded anybody that put in at least $1,000 into the Pulse Chain or PulseX sacrifice? That would probably be a situation where the person should get a Trezor hardware wallet, generate a new seed phrase that's 24 words that was generated on the Trezor and never got shown on the computer screen, never got screenshot. And then when Pulse Chain goes live, then you'll do a test transaction and you'll send like $1 worth of crypto like to that fresh address that has the seed words that have never touched the internet, and they were always like held on this external computer basically. And then you would send your full amount over there to your Trezor because you've tested to make sure that you're not going to send it to the wrong address. And then you could set up a Time Pays Me vault on your Trezor because you loaded it into your MetaMask, and then you can time lock half your coins or whatever you want to do, 1%. You know, if the guy, Greg Schoen, who bought Bitcoin for 6 cents and sold it at 30 cents on a 5X and made $500 off of his 1,700 Bitcoin, if he had kept 10% of his 1,700 Bitcoin and time locked them for like 10 years, what's Bitcoin at today? Bitcoin is $28,000. So $170 times 28,000 is like 4.6 million. Sorry, $4.7 million. So Greg would not have to be working a software job now. Still running in the rat race, right? So maybe you should be smart and time lock 10% of your Pulse Chain and PulseX tokens and see how that goes. Best of luck. Let me see. So another thing that occurred to me today, I you know, maybe someday I'll do more than 2 streams a week, but look, you guys are going to get all the alpha here that I can think of. Because I'm not going to break it into multiple videos. It's just how it goes. Listen on 2x if it's too long for you. You know, because like that's how I know if I'm not well rested or if I was like in a serious car accident. The way that I know is I can't listen to things on 2x anymore. So take care of yourself and, you know, keep you know, and then test your processing speed. Oh, getting good sleep has been really helpful for me lately. I say as I'm like, you know, drinking a little bit of coffee to keep it real. Okay, so again, I would have to do a bunch of like blockchain math and like maybe some of you are going to go out and do it, but here's the idea. What was the value of Hex when all these sacrifices happened? It was kind of around the price now, I think. I think the price of Hex during the sacrifice phases was like in between 6 cents and 12 cents or something like that. And that's where we've seen it range recently as Pulse Chain Mainnet was approaching. So that's kind of like super interesting to me, right? Because that tells me that there's still meat on the bone. I think that's really important. And it'd be really cool if you went back and you did a chain analysis on like how much Hex was sacrificed compared to other coins and what we can infer about like, you know, whether that's an OG hexakin who's reached escape velocity, they're a shark or a dolphin or a whale, and they might not need to sell anytime soon. See, that's the thing about every other cryptocurrency that launches is you always have like a slimy founder who wants to sell the entire supply that they have, right? You have like XRP, you have like Brad Garlinghouse who's dumping billions of dollars of coins on the market. You have just pick any coin, throw a dart, and it's going to have a founder who sells. Ethereum, the founder sells when the market gets bubbly or has the Ethereum Foundation sell. It's crazy. So in Hex, in Pulse Chain and PulseX, you might not have that dynamic. But yeah, if we go back and look at the SAC value of Hex, and you know, if we look at that, the reason why that matters is that maybe that there were people on the sidelines with USDC, and there's still meat on the bone left for them. And there's people who bought Hex and they're waiting for Pulse Chain to go live before they deploy it into Pulse or PulseX. There's still meat on the bone left for those guys. There's so much meat on the bone. It's really, really incredible. Now I've seen like 2 super chats go by here. Let me go back and catch up. So Motion Blur, thank you for the $5 super chat. Shout out to you. I relapsed on nicotine from the PLS launch stress, but I did it with patches instead of vapes. Could be worse. That's excellent. Excellent job. I studied nicotine relapses. I studied smoking for 7 years. And I can tell you that the reason that it's so much better for you to manage your addiction using a nicotine patch when you relapse is because the patch has a technology in it that allows you to transdermally absorb over a 24-hour period. And the reason why that's important is because the way that the nicotine enters your bloodstream is over a much longer period than if you smoke something. And if you look at like addictive behaviors, if you look at like how addictive something is, it usually relates to how long it takes for the substance to reach your brain. So like if you inject a drug, it would be more addictive than because your brain is being rewarded so much quicker that it strengthens the relationship of you repeating that behavior. So if you're like injecting something, it reaches your brain the fastest. It's the most addictive. If you smoke something, it's like the second fastest way, or like snort it, you know, kind of same thing. It reaches your brain very quickly, but not as quick as injecting. If you eat something, it's like less addictive, but it can still be, you know, like can still be a repetitive behavior that you get into. But that takes longer to reach your brain, maybe 10 minutes instead of 10 seconds. And then if you absorb something transdermally over 24 hours, it's really not hitting your system for, you know, 10 minutes to 2 hours. Basically, it's like when you start to hit the peak. Depends if the patch is a rapid rise or a slow rise patch, but either way, shout out to you. That's a really effective way to manage your relapse, and it's better for you, and it's leads to a better outcome in your recovery. Like it'll be easier for you to quit patches than quitting the vape. And generally, vapes are like there's like an information war against them and against the patches as well. But patches and vapes, when they're used correctly, can be a huge lifesaver. And that's what I used to quit smoking several years ago. Yeah, so great point there. Let me see here. I think I saw another super chat. There it is. Crypto Keeper, Maddie, do you do coaching calls? And where do you see a $4,000 reaching during a bull market in USD value? No, I don't do coaching calls. I am on here live twice a week. For Hex Therapy Live, I usually try to read the comments unless I have like just insane amount of alpha like tonight. On Game Theory Gang, it just depends. Like I want everybody to get their chance to talk. So usually one of the people on screen is keeping an eye on the comments. But yeah, like the best way is just to get my thoughts for free when I'm live streaming typically. But where do I see like a $4,000? I'm assuming you mean like a sacrifice. And so it'd be totally different if you're talking about investing in Hex or, you know, even between Pulse Chain and Pulse X. I think it could have a big difference in what the price performance is. But I would say probably a $4,000, like what value would it reach in the bull market if you didn't touch it at all, if it was time locked and you just let it ride? I mean, these coins can do 100x. Sometimes they can do even more than that, but these coins can do, many coins have done 100x. So, and that's like with founders selling, you know, Ethereum did like a 30,000x or something. Well, it did a 10,000x at least. Was it a 14,000x that it did in total? But I mean, what's a 100x on 4,000? Is that 400,000? Yeah. Yeah, that would be my guess. Like at the top of the next bull market. What's up, Gina? What's Maddie Time Lock? Is it an app? Yeah, it's called Time Pays Me. I haven't like released a white paper yet because I don't want somebody to just copy all my good ideas, even though I think they could, and I would still kick their ass. Like, because there are lots of people who have been following along in this journey and want to participate. And because I'm not overcharging, there's like a 0.1% fee for using the app. And I think that that's really generous and like fair to both the creators and customers. I don't know if you're a customer. You're somebody doing blockchain math for yourself. So that's what users would be. But yeah, the idea is that I've got like a bunch of really cool ways to market this idea organically. And that's why there are, I think, like hundreds of people. Well, there's like thousands of people watching these live streams that I do, is because they like that I have good alpha on Hex and Pulse Chain and Pulse X, and because they're excited about my product. So we're taking every opportunity now, because Pulse Chain hasn't launched yet, and because we want to do as perfect of a job as possible. I said earlier, like we had this breakthrough, this unexpected, very late breakthrough where it's like, oh, we can do this for way less gas fees than we thought. And look, when you're time locking something, even if you're only time locking $1 for 50 years, that's exactly the kind of situation where you kind of want the smart contract to have the most efficient system possible. Even if you're time locking for a year or a week for the security benefits, to be able to undo a hack with your second seed phrase, Like you want this. You want this to be as good as possible and as efficient as possible. So I've already got a good track record with the team I'm working with. There's already something called go.tshare.app that is our team's creation. So Time Pays Me will be coming out as soon as it's ready. And it could be as soon as a week from now that we're ready to go to audit. And it could be as soon as a week from that time that we're ready to launch or go into alpha testing. Day 3 PLS SAC was the highest, 16.8 cents ish per hex on July 17th, 2021. That was a long time ago, says Hexander. Hey, thanks for looking that up. Appreciate it. Oh, my bad. Hex 19 is correcting me that Brad Garlinghouse does not sell billions of XRP. Okay. Well, then I thought I had heard Richard say that, but I know Hex 19 pays a lot closer attention than I do to XRP. So, and I should shout out that XRP is fighting the SEC for all of us, and that's super important. So, I've really warmed up to them lately. Looks like I'm reading off of a teleprompter. I'm honored that you think that. I don't know if I should be honored. Maybe you're trying to troll me, but I wrote down a few notes over here, and yeah, I don't really care where I look. A lot of people are here for the words and ideas, not for the the visuals. But hey, shout out to you. RH for president. I would like to point out every time somebody says RH for president that I wrote RH in on the last presidential election. Yeah. I didn't like any of the candidates. So I wrote him in and I took a picture of it. So if he ever runs for president, I have proof that I was probably the first one to vote for him. V3 does mean that Mainnet will be even better. Great stream. Hey, I'm glad you liked it. The price of Hex, it looks like, did it dump all the way down to 6.6 cents and now it's all the way back up at 7.1? Cool. Yeah, I had a limit order in like whatever it was a week ago when we had that like blow off at 12 cents or whatever, and then I put in a limit order at like 6.9 cents, and then it was getting ready to expire, so I canceled it, and then it was like a few hours later it went down to like 6.8. So I wasn't too upset. That's another thing that I should point out is like a skill you can have or something you can pay attention to whenever you are making that transition between the behaviors of buying and selling and staking that I was talking about earlier. Like there are times when it'll be okay to be fine not buying and not selling Hex. Like you'll be fine just like chilling. And like you might wait for certain price targets, like with your miner liquid bag. Like for me, if Hex went to 20 cents tomorrow, like I would sell a little bit, and then I would have more dry powder on the side to like extend my runway so I don't have to sell more Hex later. Or have more money to defend the price if it dropped down to 4 cents the next day, right? So you want people to be in that position no matter where you are in the system, except if you're like a day trader. If you're a day trader, then you don't like other people day trading and like having good emotional control and that sort of thing. So another thing I think that's really important to practice during these types of times when we do have higher volatility is, even if you're somebody who's like a medium experienced person in crypto, you might want to practice selling a little bit of money. Like let's say you have like $20,000 in crypto in Hex. Maybe you would want, if the price doubled or something, maybe you would want to sell $500 worth and then wait for the price to dip and then buy like $500 worth, basically. And what that does is, in my opinion, it doesn't completely change your portfolio. It doesn't like, it's fine if the price never came back down, and if and maybe you wanted to sell, maybe you wanted to buy when it was like 20% lower after it doubled or something. And you wouldn't do this with your whole bag. You wouldn't get greedy. This is to master the emotions of fear and greed. Because what you'll realize is your brain is like stopping you from selling when the price goes up, and your brain is stopping you from buying when the price goes down. And that's just how our meat brains are wired. And so we have to actually practice the skill. And that's what I did, is I practiced the skill when I had $20,000 in my entire crypto portfolio. And that was my life savings at the time. I practiced taking a chunk of that was meaningful to me, maybe $500, whatever it was, maybe $1,000. And I practiced selling on a green day and buying on a red day. And it made me realize that I hadn't been doing that. And it made me so much better at doing a dollar cost averaging strategy. I mean, I was already pretty good at that, but doing like a little bit more nuanced one. I believe that it was the practice that I put in of emotional control over selling green candles and buying red candles. Like, maybe it was a week or two I had to wait for that to happen. And maybe I got lucky. So that's why I didn't do it with my whole bag. And that's why I quit practicing that. I didn't keep practicing that more and more over time, because I knew that my luck could run out, that you could get left behind. Basically, if the price doubles and it never comes back down, you can get left behind having a smaller bag. So the most important thing is that you have your long-term major thesis, and that you don't violate that. Like if I had taken half my bag and sold it of Hex, that would have been too much risk for my actual belief that it was going to do well long-term. So it takes being able to hold like opposite ideas in your head to really be able to do your best so that you don't get stuck waiting an extra 4 years to take any gains. There are people who didn't sell anything when they got a 1000x. And part of, the majority of their wealth would have been protected just because they're time locked and laddered. But even the part that they had access to, they didn't sell. And it wasn't just because it wasn't just because they wanted to be only doing long-term delaying gratification. It's because they hadn't mastered the emotion of greed. And so the way to master that is to practice selling an amount that's like significant to you, but it's not going to change your overall thesis. So, and then you always have to take responsibility for your own actions, right? Because like what I'm predicting is higher volatility the closer we are to pulse chain. What I'm predicting is I don't know what it's going to do in the short term, but I know in the long term, I want to have the emotional skill set that I need to be able to take gains and then get to a point of financial freedom, to stay in that point of financial freedom, and then to be able to defend the price and theoretically spend less time worrying about it and more time worrying about other stuff in life. Now, I'm in this weird category of content creators, so that's like kind of a different mission than most people. But for most people, they would want to get financially free from crypto and then go do something else with their time, make other contributions to society, as we talked about earlier. Now, that brings me to one of my last like super important points about these behavioral observations of crypto. If you do time lock and you do survive the mad gains and the mad dips, and you learn emotional control so you can master fear and buy when there's dips, and you can master greed and you can sell when there's too much pumping. You're still gonna get to the point, right, where you have to like figure out what you're doing with your life. And you're still gonna get to other points that you need to like, master your own behaviors. And the point I was wanting to get to is like you want to be able to unplug. And that's something we haven't really talked about before. But it's a really important point. Like, here's my theory on it, is like, if you were scratching your butt and you got $1 million like drop down out of the sky, your meat brain would like really like scratching your butt way more after that. That's a really weird example, but let's bring it home even further. Like, if you were spending all your time watching crypto YouTube content and it wasn't, and it was, let's say it was educating you at first, but then it became repetitive, and it was, you were doing it and you were telling yourself you were doing it because it's entertaining, but really you were doing it because you really just got rich from doing it, and then you didn't have the skill yet to like unplug yourself. And that's, I'll tell you that it was my goal as a therapist. The way that I looked at it was, I didn't want to keep people in therapy forever. My goal as a therapist was for you to graduate and then maybe someday, and this is a little bit hyperbolic, but it's not. It's really like how I actually felt about the thought experiment. What if there were so many people like me who were great therapists that everybody got to a point where they were doing so well that we put ourselves out of a job? That would be great, because then I could go do something else with my life that I would enjoy, even though I really enjoyed working with people in therapy. And I would say the same thing about me being like, this crypto psychologist who's like blending economics and like psychology and trying to understand how we can like scale our mental health through our monetary policy and all that good kind of stuff, and how I'm trying to get the word out and educate people about cryptocurrency and decentralization, like how people might be more productive and innovative, and like there might be more wealth to go around in the world if people were not stuck in a mentally ill rat race with inflation. Like, if I or somebody else or all of us did such a good job educating everybody that like our job was done, the point is we could go do something else. And that's something that we shouldn't be scared of. And in the same way, I'd encourage you as a listener to give yourself permission to unplug from crypto content when it's your time. Not your time to die, when it's your time, when you've gotten everything you can get out of it, when it becomes too repetitive, or just as an experiment to see what else you can fill yourself with that is fulfilling and challenging and allows you to grow. And the reason I say this is because being in Hex is kind of like winning the lottery in slow motion, or winning the lottery every day once you've gotten to a point of financial freedom and escape velocity. And I know that there are a lot of people who watch this show who have become financially free, and there's a lot of people who want to become financially free. And it's no guarantee that you will, but the whole point of the show is to say, what if, and then how would you need to prepare yourself? Because in some ways, this whole idea of spending time in the market instead of timing the market suggests that you're going to do a lot of waiting. So watching Hex content while you're waiting to become financially free is like, if it's helping you grow, if it's preparing you so that you can make the right decisions when you're rich and not be an asshole and be like emotionally well and have like healthy relationships, and you're contributing to society and like all this good kind of stuff. Like, the risk is that you'll become addicted to crypto content because of your sudden wealth syndrome. And so I want to point out, like, every time we come back to the idea of sudden wealth syndrome, I want to point out to you, like, there will be someday you will graduate from Hex Therapy and you will no longer need to tune in. I hope. That's my hope for you. It's like in the movie Good Will Hunting, when Ben Affleck is telling Matt Damon, like, he's like, oh, I always dream of the day, like, I come to your front door and knock on your door and we're going to go to our shitty construction job or like be janitors together. Like, you're not there because you moved on to something greater. Like, that's, like, that's my hope too. That someday I'll fire up the computer and instead of having like 1 million people watching live, it'll be down to like, 0, because everybody's already heard it and they're off living their better lives because they have financial freedom. They have a savings mechanism that allows you to be future oriented and to build, to have an incentive to build a better future in the world, to make the next invention that was only possible because you became financially free from the inflationary rat race, right? That's what happened to me. I invented some aspects of Time Pays Me with my team, and I couldn't have done it without them. But I was able to do that, to invent a new way for people to undo a hack and for people to time lock any ERC or PRC20 token or coin. I was able to make that invention because I became financially free. And it just so works. It just kind of works out that, the type of therapy that I was doing before it didn't scale. I'd have to work one-on-one with people. And I believe that Time Pays Me is a type of financial monetary policy therapy that will scale, I hope, and that will give people the superpower of saving in a system that's mentally healthy. So imagine if it's true that not only 1,000 people can get financially free from Hex like I did for a certain period. I have a 1-year runway. I'm still treating my investments like they're going to work out to the upside. Otherwise, I would have sold all my Hex and I would have $1 million and I would watch inflation eat away at that to where, it's only going to last me for 10 years, even if I'm really responsible with it. Right. But I'm already playing a long-term game, but imagine how rich the world would be. How everybody in the world could be a millionaire if the world was 100 times more productive, or if people made inventions that could scale, right? If artificial intelligence, becomes a 10 times better doctor and teacher and everything, And then that's a compound effect that could take place if people are even 5% healthier physically and mentally, and people are 5% more educated and become more productive, then there are more goods and services in the world. And the accounting that we're doing to make up money that goes along with those goods and services, the math works out. It pays. Crypto, making money out of thin air, whether it's the government or crypto doing it, can pay for itself if it leads to a more productive society. So if people get rich from crypto and retire and become assholes and don't produce anything, then that doesn't work out super well, right? That leads to a decline in society. But if printing money out of thin air in the government and the government stealing from everybody and making prices higher 20% every year into infinity and 16xing the price of coffee between like my mom's age, like my mom's high school days versus my high school days or whatever, it's like whatever it is, it's going to make a big difference if how people act when they get rich in crypto. And that's why sun well syndrome is so important. That's why we talked about this already for almost 2 hours. And so I appreciate you all being here. I appreciate you keeping it real in the live chat. I think I can get to like maybe a couple more questions before I wrap it up, but I hope this has been helpful for you. And if you're here, I hope that you would do the minimum that, of just at least hitting the like button. Because if we can work together and we have an incentive to work together, that's another whole point of this theory of Hex Therapy Live, of Hex being mentally healthy for the world, of time locking being mentally healthy for the world, is like, I'm more encouraged when I see proof of these ideas. And I'm already pretty convinced because of the engagement that we have. More people watched the Hex conference in January than the Bitcoin conference that Michael Saylor spoke at in January. Now, that's not the number one Bitcoin conference, but I mean, Richard got like 70,000 views when he uploaded the video that we did together. And it was like over 30,000 on my channel, closer to 40,000 maybe. So Michael Saylor, he got like half that. So check it out. We're on the up and up. Me for vice president? Wow, that's cool. Already back up to 7.3 cents. Wow. Great people doing great things. That's right, Sam. Great stream. Hey, thanks, Harmonic Hexkin. Yeah, and by the way, I extended the deadline for getting a ticket for Hexpo Miami like 3 or 4 more days, and so that'll go until like Saturday or Sunday my time. So like definitely get your ticket because I'm going to do the shirt order and then there's not going to be any more shirts. Maddie has his back straight. That's right. No rugs in the RH ecosystem. No, PulseX is not a rug. Yeah, V4. Ivan on Tech had a great stream today. He played a parody that the Bitcoin couple did. Amazing. They were talking about like how Bitcoin compares to gold, and I'm gonna have to go out there and retweet that video because it is amazing. Shout out to Ivan on Tech. Talks about Hex a lot. He follows me on Twitter. Beautiful. So there you go. Your Lambo's got Hex Therapy. You got some Hex Therapy today. This is not financial advice. 2028 V43 of the testnet is out. This is your last warning. That is right. Thank you, Maddie, for the work that you share with Hexaco. Your presence in the RH ecosystem is a huge support to all of us. Hey, thanks for saying that. Hex Bees, you rock. No Beanie Babies? Yeah, well, not on this shirt, but on the Tuesday shirt, I wore some Beanie Babies, and you get 2 complimentary Beanie Babies with every T-shirt at the Hex meetup at the Bitcoin conference, because it's going to be a giant marketing stunt. And I talked about that a little bit on Tuesday. It's my favorite T-shirt. It's my favorite shirt that RH ever wore, was the one that had 4 Beanie Babies stuck to it. And they are crypto themed. So that's pretty fun. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the Hex meetup at the Bitcoin conference. I always want to say Hex conference because that's a big deal. Toby One, good to see you there. Jerry, Crypto Dave, Unplugged Dad. Awesome. Oh, and then I was like joking around that I'm not going to shave my face until Mainnet. A lot of people saw it on Twitter. Not sure if I'm actually going to do that or not. By the way, I am usually pretty serious on Twitter, but I was kind of joking. I don't know. Now a lot of people are saying that they're doing it too, so I haven't decided yet. What's the most exciting thing you're looking forward to at the Hex Miami meetup? Definitely being, well, the 48-hour live stream with people all around the world who are into Hex. I am really excited to meet people there, Hexicans, of course. But we're going to be surrounded by thousands of other people who love crypto almost as much as we do. So that's probably the best thing about it is last year I went, there were 15,000 people there who paid. They cared about Bitcoin and crypto and Ethereum and everything so much that they were willing to pay hundreds of dollars to go to a conference for 2 days. And that it's like a filter. It's like all the people who like don't really care or they're just there to troll like are not there. It'd be like, and they're in person and they're having the time of their lives connecting with other people. Normally us people in crypto, we're like the oddballs, right? In any crowd. But if the whole crowd is crypto people, it was so awesome that I wanted to create that same experience for other Hexicans. And we've got like 60 people coming. So give me just right. Don't do it. Please shave. All right. Well, I'll think about it. Any highest of stakes updates by chance? Well, Toby One was teasing that there's good news coming on the live stream. So that's pretty exciting. I'm super pumped about the highest of stakes. Super pumped. 100x only in the next bull. Is that a $100 billion market cap? I mean, look, it depends how many people sell on a 10x. Okay. I love your question. Thank you for the super chat. It depends how many people take profit. If all of the people who put in $1,000 sell at $10,000, then you can get way higher than 100x. If everybody waits until it does 100x to sell and they have $100,000 for every 1,000 that they put in, you're not going to get 1,000x. I don't think. So it depends where everybody else sells. If all of the whales and all of the little guys all time lock their Pulse Chain and Pulse X in Time Pays Me, you could get a 1 million X in the next bull market. So it just depends how long of a game people want to play. It just depends. But look, the reason it's so cool to time lock and time pays me is you're going to get a little bit out. If you time lock for 4 years, you're going to get what, 0.8% each. Well, I shouldn't try to do like unknown math on stream, but yeah, if you time lock your Pulse Chain and Pulse X for a year, you're going to be getting a little bit out every week. And then you can decide whether you want to restake it or hold it back in liquid form to sell. But yeah, I think 100x would be really cool. I understand only 100x because I can imagine it going higher. Hex did better. But remember, Hex didn't have as many people in it from the beginning. But then again, Hex didn't have as many people when it finally launched. So look, I'm happy. I'm happy for it to be way higher. And what I'm recommending to people is that they evaluate their own timeline and not only base decisions based on how many X's. If you time lock, you're separating yourself from the price. And the reason why that can be such a good thing is because the price can go higher than you imagine. If I was imagining a 1 million X off the bat, then maybe nobody would time lock. And then it won't do a million X, right? So you need kind of a balance. And the best type of balance you can have is where there's multiple strategies within each person. So if I take 10% and lock for 10 years, and I take, half of it and I lock it for a year, and I put the rest of it in liquid and get ready to sell that. And I can sell some of it on 10x and some of it on 100x and some of it on 1000x. Well, I could have a really cool plan. I could have a cool story, bro, about how I'm going to hold my liquid bag until all these price targets. But as I was saying earlier in the stream, it becomes 500 times harder to hold liquid when it goes up 500x. So, and then the more people who give in, even though they wanted to wait for $1 Hex, but they gave in at 10 cents, they gave in at 25 cents. Well, they're not going to make it to $1 the same way that somebody else would if they were time locked. So look, I'm out here. I invented something. I'm bringing a product to market that should help these things go higher than they would otherwise, because people will be time locked. And the reason you can say, so the assumption that you're making when you say the price is higher the longer you wait is that there's more adoption down the road, and that and that's basically what supports a higher price. However, it's actually even better in Pulse X because it's deflationary. So you could have the same amount of demand and the supply goes down and your share gets higher the longer you wait. But yeah, at the end of the day, like you can do better holding liquid if the thing doesn't have longevity. Like most coins don't make new all-time highs relative to Bitcoin in subsequent cycles. Some coins do. And that's why I would always recommend that you make your own decisions and take your own responsibility, and that you deploy a variety of strategies. Oh, and hey, here's another thing that I wanted to mention is StakerUp V2 is coming out this week. Android users can already upgrade, and it's not available on the iPhone yet, I believe. I'm going to be interviewing Steph, the founder of StakerApp, and I'm really excited about that. Look, I know some people didn't have the most positive reviews of it when they saw like how much it's changed, but I'm going to get into all that and help people understand this whole no expectations thing. And like, really, I think there's a lot to get excited about, because remember, it's not just how you get your dopamine by checking the price that matters. It's the price itself that matters. And the best thing for the price is to get more people into the ecosystem. So just because you can't load all your wallets the same way that you used to check the price in Staker app, like, look, you could do it with my app, Time Pays Me. You can go in and you can say, and account equals, and then you can add every single address that you have, and you use like the ampersand symbol. So did I say Time Pays Me? I meant go.tshare.app. So go.tshare.app/account equals, and then 0x your account address. And then if you want to do more than one account, then you put and the ampersand symbol, account equals, and then 0x blah blah blah, ampersand, account equals, next one. You can do that. You can go to stakehex.today and put in multiple addresses. You can go to hexfire.io, put in multiple addresses. But Staker app is designed to onboard the next million users. And the more people complain about that, the less rewarding it is for the founder, who's really there to try to pump your bags. So whether you can access your Hedron, like I was on the side of, come on, Staker app, like, you know, why aren't you helping people to access those airdrops that they got? But look, now I'm on a different note. I'm out here saying, like, you can watch David Feeder's video and learn how to get your Hedron airdrop from your Staker app wallet. Staker app is focused on getting 1 million new users in Hex, so the price can go higher anyway, like higher than it would. So we got to keep it positive out there. We got to remember we're all on the same team, and you know, it's really important. So best place for more info on Sun-Wells syndrome. Some of my friends in real life need to know more about it. I would go to ChatGPT. You should be on there anyway, learning about the world. And I think ChatGPT can put in, like, if you put in a prompt and ask about that, it'll do a good job, especially if you mention like crypto and stuff, or whatever their particular situation is. I should write an article about it. I've got a playlist. If you go to my YouTube channel, you can check out a playlist, but my stuff has been like pretty specialized into Hex and pretty long form. And so there's probably better content out there for people who aren't in our ecosystem. I've really specialized. Can I put PLSX in Ledger right now? There's a fake PLSX coin going around out there, so don't mess around with that. If you're talking about testnet coins, yeah, you can put them in a Ledger right now. Ledger is compatible. We're all on the same team. Positivity, light, and love, and Staker app working together with go.tshare.app and all the communities getting along. What's up, Frank? Hey, thanks for being a supporter of the channel. Really appreciate you. If I didn't already say that. Yeah, it's been a good one. So Steph sent 2 $1,000 super chats to Ivan in one stream a few years ago. Hexicans are still reaping that. Hey, shout out to Steph. I'm gonna have to thank him for that myself. Awesome. Well, I'll load the thumbnail so the people on Twitter can see what we're talking about. This beautiful thumbnail that I slaved over. Hope you liked it. I hope it got you to click on the video. If you're in the replay, gang, leave a comment, hit the like button, subscribe. I can see you guys who aren't subscribed. Makes me sad. And if you're watching live, same deal. Appreciate you all. I'm going to see if there's somebody we can raid. I really like the teamwork that makes the dream work these days. Don't know if Randy's live. RH Max, you are the winner. Let's go raid RH Max. Why don't you tell him who sent you? I'm dropping the link in the stream. I'm hitting the like button on RH Max's stream. I hit the like button on my own stream. It's important. Feeds the algorithm. RH Max is live right now. Go check out his stream. Let the good times roll. Algo Ray, of course, good name. I've seen it before. Watching on Twitch, no less. Shout out to you. Good stream, Maddie. Appreciate you being there for the community as always. Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for the stream. Yeah, you can ask ChatGPT about a hex staking ladder. That's a good idea. Hex Holmes, thanks for the feedback. Maybe shorter form and a more generic version of Sunwell Syndrome and agnostic to not being on any crypto team could pull more people into Hex. Great stream. Thank you. Until next time, my friends, stake wisely, publish, do your blockchain math, and take care of yourself. Peace out.